Who gets the earnest money if the buyer cancels the contract? One of the most confusing parts of selling a home is this question. If the buyer cancels, do I get to keep their earnest money? And the answer is sometimes yes, sometimes no. And sometimes it depends on how the contract is written and what exactly happened. So if you are selling a home in the Louisville area, I'm going to explain what earnest money really is, when sellers usually get to keep it, when buyers get it back, and how to protect yourself so you don't lose time and money when a deal falls apart. So what earnest money actually is? Earnest money is the deposit that the buyer puts down after an offer is accepted. It shows that the buyer is serious about purchasing the home. This money is typically held by the title company or the brokerage while the transaction moves forward. Now here's the important part. Earnest money is not automatically yours as the seller. So who gets it depends entirely on what happens in the contract. So when do buyers usually get their earnest money back? Well, in most contracts, the buyer has several contingency periods that protect them. For example, that during the inspection period, the buyer can usually cancel for almost any reason and receive their earnest money back. During the financing period, if the buyer cannot get approved for their loan, they often are allowed to cancel and receive their earnest money back. If the appraisal comes in low and the contract allows for a cancellation, the buyer may get their earnest money back. And in these situations, the buyer is canceling under a protected contingency. And when that happens, the earnest money usually goes back to the buyer. So when do sellers maybe be entitled to keep the earnest money? And here's where it changes. If the buyer cancels without a valid contractual reason, or they miss deadlines, or they simply walk away after contingencies are removed, the seller may be entitled to keep the earnest money as compensation. Again, this typically happens when the buyer cancels after inspections and after financing deadlines have passed. The buyer just refuses to close even though they are approved, or the buyer breaches the contract. In these cases, the earnest money may legally belong to the seller. So why do earnest money disputes happen? And this is the part that surprises many sellers, because even when the seller is entitled to the earnest money, it does not automatically get released. Both parties usually have to sign an agreement directing the title company or brokerage on who gets the funds. If the buyer refuses to release the money, the earnest money may become a dispute. And now the funds are frozen, attorneys may get involved, and the dispute can take weeks or even months to resolve. Meanwhile, your home may be stuck in limbo. So how much does earnest money really protect you? Well, here's another important thing that sellers don't always realize. Earnest money is usually not a huge amount compared to the price of the home. In many cases, it may only be a few $1,000s or less. That money rarely covers the time you missed on the market, your carrying cost, your lost opportunities. And so while earnest money provides some protection, the real goal is avoiding failed contracts in the first place. So how do you protect yourself before accepting an offer? This is where strategy matters. Before accepting an offer, always review with sellers I always review with sellers how much earnest money is being offered, how long the buyer's contingencies last, when do deadlines expire, and how strong the buyer's position really is. Stronger buyers usually offer more earnest money, have shorter contingency periods, and are less likely to cancel. Sometimes we negotiate higher earnest money or shorter deadlines to reduce seller risk. And here's one thing that most sellers don't realize. Keeping earnest money is not always a win. Even if you do get the deposit, you may still have lost weeks of market time, weeks of momentum, and your leverage. So in many cases, the real victory is preventing the deal from falling apart at all. And that is why choosing the right buyer matters more than just choosing the highest price. So if you are thinking about selling your home in the Louisville area and you want help evaluating offers so that you don't get stuck in an earnest money dispute, I'm always happy to walk you through how to protect yourself before you ever accept a contract. I am David Hittle. I could be your real estate specialist, and I do business at Shop Kentucky Homes, LLC, and I'm with United Real Estate Louisville. And please, if you found this video helpful, make sure to click the like button, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in my next video.